Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pioneer webinar. I'm Sudeshna Sen, your host and founder of Pioneer. It's a go-to network for women founders building game-changing companies. So this is meant to be an interactive session, so feel free to drop in your questions. In fact, I'd say feel free to go off mute, ask questions as we go. And before we dive in, feel free to share your LinkedIn, your what you're building, and where you're from, so that you can connect with other founders on this call. With that, I'm very excited about today's topic, which is all about the world of accelerators that almost all of us are engaged in some capacity. As we all know, accelerators promise a lot. They promise funding, they promise mentorship, a lot of access, a lot of support. And there's so many different types of accelerators right now that are popping up everywhere. But if you look at it, the experience that you have in these accelerators can vary very much based on what you join, except you know the top tier ones like YC. So today we want to dive into this world of accelerators and look into how, as founders, we can better navigate it and what to watch out for, what to look out for, be mindful of as you are deciding what to join in terms of your founder journey. So with that, I'm thrilled to be joined by Holly Sloofman. She's the founder of Necterine, and she has had a lot of experience with accelerators, which she'll share with us today. So, with that, welcome, Holly. Why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and what you're building?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me, Sudeshna. I'm excited to be here. So I'm Holly. I'm founder of Nectarine. Nectarine started as a dating app. Then we pivoted to more of a relational intelligence coaching app. Think masterclass meets Duolingo for dating and relationships. And now we're in the midst of a bit of another pivot. More towards media company around dating and relational intelligence. My background is in advertising and marketing and also coaching. So I spent, now it's been close to 15 years working in advertising at some of the biggest ad agencies in New York on major clients like CoverGirl, KitKat, Carnival Cruise Lines, Dick's Sporting, Google. I'm not going to name them all, but lots of products you know and have used. And then I took a bit of a sabbatical in 2018, moved to Bali, took some time off, became a full-on cliche, started teaching yoga, which evolved into a coaching practice that I started, and that business really took off during COVID. So Nectarine was kind of the love child of my career in advertising, building brands, really being obsessed with consumer mindset and understanding how products not only like connect with consumers and impact your daily life, but how they can actually like make a change in people's daily lives. And then my coaching practice, working with people one-on-one. So in 2022 or 2023, can't keep track anymore. I was doing my coaching practice full time. At the same time, I'd recently moved to LA. Was trying to start to date out here in LA, was feeling really burnt out on the apps, not having a lot of luck. But I worked with a lot of clients who were single, and one of the things they wanted to work on together was finding a healthy relationship. And so I saw this pattern in my clients who really did the work with me to dig into their past relationship patterns, getting really self-aware, getting clear about, what didn't work for them, what they do want, really doing that kind of work and also working on their self-esteem and confidence. And those clients kept getting into these really beautiful, amazing partnerships and relationships. And I had this kind of aha moment of, oh, their headspace, their mindset is completely the opposite of where my head goes every time I open up Hinge. So how can I build something that's better than what exists? The apps are kind of designed to actually keep us single? How can I build something based on my experience building brands and my experience with these coaching clients? So that's kind of how Nectarine started. And that's all to say that I come from zero tech background, zero startup world experience, had zero clue about venture capital, I didn't even know what an accelerator was when I got started. And no one in my network really did either. So I'll pause there. That was like more than I meant to share, but hopefully it gives some good context.
Thank you, Holly. I think that's such a incredible journey you've had, and I think it's good for others to hear that they are not alone. We're all in this together, and it's okay if you don't know what accelerators are,
Yeah.
and we learn from each other. So I love your background, and I'm hopefully other founders can connect with you on a lot of these pain points that you mentioned. So let's start on accelerators. So, what made you consider joining an accelerator in the first place?
Yeah.
And what were you hoping it would do for you?
A couple of things. I think one of the biggest was that kind of lack of network in the startup world and also in terms of fundraising and in like investors. I was bootstrapping I've really been bootstrapping almost the whole time of building Nectarine. And I did raise a small friends and family round, but I was really struggling I knew I had a good idea. I was like seeing some bits and pieces of traction here and there, but I needed the capital to really build what I needed to build to prove out product market fit and our MVP. And I what I was experiencing was a lot of kind of gatekeeping, specifically around there were all these like angel investor networks, but I didn't know how to actually get into any of these. They had websites, but nothing to submit on the websites. And I, had a strong friends and family network, but no one who, had the type of money that I needed for an investment. And so discovered accelerators, and I liked the idea of not only something that would expand my network and give me potential exposure to different types of investors, but also could provide support in areas that I was not an expert in. Non-technical founder trying to build a tech product. I did not have a technical co-founder. Um, and I was working like two other full-time jobs to be able to bootstrap. And so the idea of an accelerator was really exciting because um, it not only provided access to capital, expanded my network, but also these mentors and experts that usually come along as part of the accelerator program to support you. I was super excited. I was like, wow, these are people who could potentially help build out these other areas of my business that I don't have the time to or I don't have the expertise to, and maybe even introduce me to a potential technical co-founder. So that's kind of like where I was at as well because I was too early for VC money. I didn't have the type of traction that they wanted to see. But I had kind of maxed out my own like bootstrapping and friends and family access to capital. And so the idea of an accelerator program felt like the perfect fit for where I was at.
Well, I think that's such a great insight, Holly, and I think most founders are in the same boat as you. They are looking for that VC money, and it's not easy with less traction or the traction that meets the requirements of the investors. So where'd you get that access from, that investment from? You kind of look at different avenues, and Accelerator is one of them. And many founders are pursuing this route. Talk to us a little bit more, Holly, about your experience there on out, because you decided that you want to join an accelerator. How was the experience finding an accelerator and then joining and experiencing an accelerator?
So I had actually applied to a lot of accelerators very early on when I literally just had an idea. I hadn't built anything. I didn't have any branding. And was like rejected, 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 rejected. So there was a part of me that was kind of burnt out by applying to all of the, it's a lot of time that you're spending and investing in the application process. Um, I had also, through my research on accelerators, there are the big ones like YC, um, and there's that one like 500. And, I knew that I had a very slim chance of getting into any of those just because I was a non-technical founder and didn't have a technical co-founder, and didn't have a co-founder in general. But I also came across a lot of smaller accelerator programs that required the folks who were going to be a part of it to pay to be in it. And that to me felt like a little like wrong and a little predatory. I was like, wait, so I'm looking for capital. Why are you making me invest So I had some like criteria for the type of accelerator program I wanted to be in. They either had to like make some sort of capital investment into Nectarine, or it had to be like free to be a part of it. And the accelerator program that I ended up doing last year was one that I had kind of heard about peripherally. I actually was not going to apply because I was so burnt out from all the other rejections and applications. But another founder had told me about it, and she was like, hey, this is a really good feeder program to tech stars. Their mentors are incredible, and don't, they don't invest, but they don't take any equity, because that's the other thing. Sometimes accelerator programs will take equity from you without even investing capital. And to me, that's another like big red flag. Um, so I ended up applying, getting in, um, and I don't know where I'm going. I've lost my train of thought. But it was like a smaller local LA accelerator program, which I think I also um, really liked the idea of being able to do something local and make local connections in the city that I lived in. Um, Especially knowing kind of where I was at in terms of my fundraising journey and my product development journey and like product market fit.
And how was that experience, Holly? I think one thing that you mentioned is that just because you want to join an accelerator doesn't mean it's going to happen. So there's so many rejections that can take a toll on you. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah.
And then to find the right accelerator that also fits where you are, there is again that aspect. But talk to us a little bit more about the experience you've had when you joined this particular one that came highly recommended by fellow founders. What was the good, the bad? And what did you
Yeah.
learn from it? And founders, feel free to ask questions to Holly as you go, as we go.
So this was a 3-month program. Um, I was one of 6 founders. I think over 20,000 founders, like companies applied in LA. So that was pretty cool to know that, oh wow, okay. And that felt validating, not only for me, but also like, okay, I'm after so many rejections, like I'm building something that someone also sees the potential in. Um, it was uh in person, but it was kind of it wasn't full time. So like, Techstars or YC, they give you, they invest money so that you can dedicate, your work full time while you're in their program. This was not full time, so I was working a full time job while building Nectarine, while participating in the accelerator program. And the focus of this specific program was really about perfecting the pitch. It was 3 months. We met in person once a week. There was a ton of homework in between and meeting with mentors between our in-person sessions. Um, And it was all leading up to demo day. The promise of demo day was you pitch in a room of over 100 investors. The winner of the pitch doesn't necessarily, no one wins any money. There's no like cash prizes. But to me, the idea of, wow, I can get in a room and pitch in front of like have the attention of 100 local investors, that's huge. I didn't expect to walk out the door of demo day with a bunch of checks, but I did expect to walk out the door with a bunch of new connections and warm connections and potential, connections to future investors. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work for something that I was not being paid to do, and that, I was also working full time. So um, every week we would get in a room together and we'd have to pitch in front of our peers and the mentors who were a part of the program. Um, and what was great about it was that I didn't really have a real elevator pitch before that. I didn't have I had a pitch deck. I've I've built a million and one pitch decks in my advertising career. And so I had a great deck, but I didn't necessarily have a strong pitch. And I wasn't able to like articulate what's the three words that nectarine is. Um, and so being forced to like stand up, no notes, slides behind you, pitch in front of a room, and then you just sit there and get feedback for a couple minutes. That was really hard, but really like I feel so strong about my pitch. I killed it at the end. Having to practice over and over and over again was really amazing. Um, but it was a lot of work. Um, part of the work was not only that every week we were adding more time to our pitch, but every week you're getting different feedback from not only the mentors, but the other founders in the room. And a lot of that feedback is contradictory. And sometimes a mentor will contradict their own feedback that they gave you the week before, the next week, once you address that feedback, and they're like, oh no, that doesn't work anymore. Now you have to. And so I think that was also really, I mean, it was extremely frustrating, but really good practice for when you get in front of VCs and you're getting a lot of different contradictory feedback from venture capitalists or different investors or stakeholders, and you as the founder need to be the one to make the executive decision at the end of the day of, okay, like there was some feedback that I was like, this is really helpful, and other feedback where I was like, I'm putting this over here on the shelf because this is actually, not applicable or helpful. Um, but I was working basically for those 3 months. I would have my full-time gig. I would then every night work on my updating my pitch, going through all the feedback, trying to address the feedback. I'd finally get like, okay, here's the new narrative that I'm going with. Here's the new slides I'm building out. And then I would have to memorize it from scratch. And like, if you're standing in front of a room of 30 people and you just go blank, that is the worst feeling in the world. So like I was just like dedicating all of my time to that, nights, weekends, did not have a life for 3 months. Um, I think the other kind of one of like the bad and ugly things about it is that because I don't have a co-founder, um, the time that I spent in the accelerator program working on my pitch and focusing so much on the pitch, which was important, took away from actually building my product. So, um, a lot of the other participants were already working on, um, their startup full time or had a co-founder, or not only had a co-founder, but also had like a spouse who was picking up like the life slack, and I didn't have any of those things. So it definitely took a bit of a toll by the end of it on like my physical and mental health. I definitely was burnt out. And I don't regret the program, but I do, I would caution that if you're going to move forward with an accelerator, be really clear about what their focus is. Because there are other like this accelerator focused on the pitch, right? There are other accelerators that don't even have a demo day, and they're there to help you focus on building your MVP specifically, or finding product market fit, or getting you to your next raise. And so I think as you're looking at accelerator programs, really think about like, what's my capacity? What is my next business goal? And like knowing how much time and work and effort it is, what's the support system you have around you? Um, because I think that it helped me in a lot of ways, but it also kind of like put the brakes on my business for longer than I wish it had. I went into it thinking I would get more support in other areas of the business. I thought that there would be mentors who would help me refine my financial model. That never happened. I thought there would be mentors who would be able to
Right.
help me with like some of the tech stack side of things, or people who would be able to introduce me to a potential technical co-founder. Never happened. Um, so yeah, I think also like really understanding the program's approach, what they focus on, but also doing your own due diligence around like who's running the program and who are the mentors in the program, what's their background, where do they come from, what does their network look like? Because there were some really amazing mentors, and then there were some people who I think just really loved to hear them self-talk every week and give us bad feedback.
I think that's interesting when you talk about like objectives of the accelerator and how they can support you, and then also what's your commitment to that and how can you balance so that you can invest yourself as, need be to take advantage of what they're offering, assuming you're in alignment and get accepted.
Exactly.
And it makes me think of, I'm sure like most founders, I'm sure at some point or another just toss their name in the ring for YC. Well, I did just, hey, why not? Just stick it out there. Well, this is like I had nothing, right? So it's still pretty much an idea, no traction whatsoever. And I'm like, let me just see, just to see an experience. It's like more of a learning experiment for me to see what is the process. It's a 1% chance that you're going to get accepted. They're very heavily focused on geography and trying to pull either from the, Silicon Valley or get people to commit to building there beyond the time frame in the accelerator. And so, it was interesting. I just like tossed it out there and then I told somebody, "Oh yeah, just like put in an application." They're like, "Oh my gosh, what happens if you get accepted? You have to be there in California." I was like, "You know what? I am not worried about that because at this point, there is no decision to make. I put it out there. If for whatever reason it's meant to be, then I'll deal with it. I'll figure it out. And just because I put my name in the hat doesn't mean I have to have all of that figured out. So it's really interesting. And as I've explored and applied to different accelerators, no acceptance, but it's like, you know what? Why not? Just roll the dice, stick it in there, see what happens. But sooner or later, you hear these stories, people applying to YC 1, 2, 3, 10, 12, and then finally one day they're like picked up. So I feel like it's, the types of programs, the likelihood, the number, their focus, the number of people who are applying, all of those variables. If you've got an opportunity to apply, why not? Why not?
I think you have the time and capacity, right? I think that one of the positives about applying to programs like that is that it forces you to start thinking about your business through very specific lenses and get more articulate. Like it forces you to do some of the groundwork you're going to have to do anyway. Um, so it
And
can
most of them
definitely,
do ask the same kinds of questions.
yeah.
The ones where you need to tailor a video, or if you need some updated content, or you feel compelled to produce something updated from like the last rev of of your product, then, I think there's a little more effort. Like I have one I'm hanging on to right now because I'm like stuck at the page where it's like, give us your founder video. And I'm like, I don't want to just use the same one that I used from, 5 months ago. I want to create a new one. So it's kind of hanging. But
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel coming out of that program, it's made an impact for you? Do you feel that like that being in that room with those investors, like how has that advanced Nectarine and your founder journey?
So I think one of the ugly sides of things is that there it was not a room of 100 investors. Um, we showed up to, well, first of all, the founder of this particular accelerator program um, decided to schedule it for the week of New York Tech Week in LA. So all of the investors, all of the tech investors in LA that I'd already been kind of starting to cultivate relationships with and lay groundwork with were all in New York that week. They were out of town. Um, and including like angels and stuff. So I pitched to a room of about maybe 60 friends and family. Like it was friends and family of the other founders. So that was extremely just, after working my fucking ass off
Right.
for 3 months, I'm coming every week. I'm doing my homework. I'm busting my ass. And you're not giving me money, but your promise is we're going to get you in a room of investors. The last 2 weeks, he's like messaging us, make sure to invite your people, make sure to invite the investors. I'm like, I only know like six investors here. Like that's why I'm
Exactly.
doing this program. Like you're supposed to provide the investors. So that sucked. That really sucked. It was very disappointing. Um, there were, a couple investors on the judging panel who I didn't even get to talk to because they left immediately after the pitches. Um, and so that was extremely disappointing. There was no way that I could have known that or seen that, especially because the founder who I spoke with, who was in the program previously, she then went on to Techstars. She, like, their demo day looked completely different than our demo day. Um, but that's like something that maybe I wish I had done a little more due diligence on the founder of this program, especially and kind of understood who were his like who were the types of investors he was going to bring to these to the demo day and that kind of thing. The program helped me significantly in terms of an important product pivot at the time. It like I said, like I fucking nailed my pitch, which was amazing. And it was a good thing to be able to put on kind of like Nectarine's CV. Um I will say also, if you're interested in accelerator programs, I think one of the things that helped with this one, and then there was one other one that I had applied to after it was kind of the only other accelerator program I in my head, I was like, this is the only other one I would possibly do. But I went to events that the programs put on and
Mhm.
specifically made sure that I went and introduced myself to the program directors. I followed up, I made connections with the folks who ran the programs who, they weren't the final say of who gets in or not, but just being able to see the face, having a conversation with them, being able to like plant some seeds in person was really helpful. Um, where was I?
Yeah, I mean, I like your points
Yeah,
about the due diligence, like know the program,
very
understand and
important. Yeah.
yes. And then also I
Um,
think expectations, like expectations not
yeah.
only of what to expect within it, but also what you're going to get out of it and tempering that because I think, even getting into YC, think about their portfolio. That portfolio, like what percentage of, so if we just generalized and said, of startups, like 1% unicorn, I don't, Sudeshna probably knows more than me, right? But then even within the YC portfolio, a 1% selection or acceptance rate, and of that portfolio, it's still like a 1%. Like it's just that, so it's still, there's no guarantees of
No
outcome in any
guarantee.
situation. And even if you're like in that 1%, who's to say what that journey is to get you to whatever that, to your unicorn status or your exit. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's like almost like be prepared for, bumps and pivots and like letdowns, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
think
just be
also,
resilient because it sounds like you got a lot of amazing value out of that just in terms of your pitch. And my first thought was like, shit, record that and send it to those investors. Like if it's like a tight 2 minutes or pack it into 2 minutes and just like blast it out or like get people to view it, add it to your profile, whatever it may be, because you're going to pack a punch in that little bit of time.
yeah, and that was a part of the program itself. We did have to do, like, we pitched live, and then we also had to do a recorded pitch that lived on a specific platform for other investors to watch that we could like share with investors. So it was really helpful in that sense. I would say the same, you know, just like you would do due diligence on a VC firm that you're potentially talking to and talk to other founders who they work with in their portfolio. I think I'm glad I spoke with that one other founder. I wish that maybe I had reached out to a few other founders
Hmm,
beyond
hmm.
her. I think it would have been helpful to, she had such success coming out of that program, but it would have been actually helpful to talk to some people who maybe didn't have success coming out of past programs and just get, their take on
Yep.
things.
This is a great point, Holly, and thanks for sharing your journey, Rose. I'm just curious, Holly. You always get something out from these accelerator programs. Yes, you got a lot out for the pitch, but then at what expense? You could not work on your product. So there was a setback from that standpoint. So looking back, would you say was it worth it, or would you say was that 3 months worth your time, or would you have benefited more focusing on your product or joining another accelerator, which is more suited to you during that time?
Great question. Um, I don't regret it because it happened and it helped me in a lot of ways. I do, though, wish that I think if I had to kind of choose one of your three options you just put on the table, I wish that I would have preferred to do a different accelerator program, I think. For all of the time and effort and work that I put into my pitch and perfecting my pitch, I think it would have been a lot more valuable to participate in a program that not only helped with the pitch, but also helped support the business and the growth of the business and um, filled in some of those gaps that I had as a solo founder at the time. I also think that I would not participate in it. At the time, it made sense. If I were to do another accelerator program moving forward, I would only do one that invested into Nectarine and allowed me to work on it full time. Um, because there were outcomes of the program that really helped me. Again, there was like a product pivot that came out of it that was great. Um, but when you have a product pivot, but then you can't actually build against the pivot, and that kind of sets you back, like, especially given how fast things move in the tech world. Um, that was, I think I would have been in a different place had I been given like the different types of support to actually work on Nectarine full time while in the program versus it being more of like an extracurricular
Right,
thing.
right. No, totally, totally, Holly. I think that's the point. It's like really being very mindful of what you need, and does the program give you what you need? Is that a fit? Because you will always learn something from these programs, but is it what you really need? I'd love to hear from others as well, from the audience, on what your experience has been, either applying to accelerators or being a part of them. What have you learned, if you're open to it?
Well, I think that point that you just made is a great one because it's what are the objectives of the program and what are your objectives and how is that going to align? Because to what Holly experienced directly, like they're going to suck it out of you to achieve what that program is meant to produce, right? So it's not only taking away from the build, but also it might be pushing you in a direction that either you're is premature for you, or just not ready. I mean, stage is some accelerators when I read it, it's like this is meant for like idea stage or to help you kickstart and get, a path to MVP. I'm like, well, I'm already there. So, is that even worth it? Even if they're going to give some money. Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. I think there is also a piece of validation that would come just as you started out, Holly, saying like there's a validation that comes from, hey, I got accepted into a program, therefore, oh, somebody else believes in me. So there's an attraction there. And I see Archita has her hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I'm finding this very insightful because I am only starting the journey. I'm working on a product. So I have like a PRD, a deck. I'm thinking about building an MVP, but I'm seeking out, accelerators that I could go and participate in. Obviously, it's always, hard when you're trying to build a consulting business at the same time, trying to take your product idea somewhere, right? Because once you have a product idea, it won't let you sleep, right? Because you want to keep you're like, okay, now I need to do something with this, and every day you're not doing something with it, even though you're busy, with your family, with everything, everybody who depends on you, plus your job. You still, it eats away at you, so you want to, so having, I mean, hearing what you went through and the good, the bad, and the ugly, it helps figure out and make the right decisions on what kind of an accelerator will be best suited. It's almost like, matchmaking, and you're going to be in it, whether it's for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. It's a lot of commitment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, 100%. I think that's the question. Like, is the commitment worth it? So Holly, you did mention that, we have to do as founders due diligence on accelerator programs and the founder of those programs as much as they do on us. So, what does that smart due diligence look like? And, how should founders, what are the different things founders should be looking at or considering?
Yeah. I think, oh man, so many things. First of all, I think looking at what other companies have gone through their programs, and if possible, like reaching out to those founders, send them a note on LinkedIn, see if you have any mutuals. Um, Even not talking to those founders, looking at kind of what happened, what's been the trajectory of their company since coming out of the accelerator program. Did they do another accelerator program? Did they raise a successful round? Did they launch and not, like what kind of, and are you seeing any patterns in any of those companies as well? Definitely doing research into the mentors who are in the program. All these accelerators, not all of them, but a lot of them, they'll list their mentors and they'll have like really fancy bios and stuff. But half the mentors that were listed that were supposed to be a part of like participate in my program actually didn't participate in my program. They were just on the website and never met them. There were some really amazing mentors who were extremely successful exited founders, past, investors. angel investors, and then there were some who were like, not the greatest. Um, but doing your own research on those mentors, not just taking whatever it says on the website at face value. Um, the other thing to remember too is a lot of these accelerator programs, YC included, but especially like some of the smaller ones, they need you just as much as you need them. Like when they have their whole goal is for you, they know the same likelihood as a VC, the likelihood of you going on to be $1 billion company is very low, but they want that for you because that looks good for them. So there were other accelerator programs. There were two actually who I was in talks with who they were new accelerator programs. They wanted me to be a part of the first cohort. And I ended up not moving forward with those for different reasons. But one in particular, they tried to position it like, you're so lucky to be a part of this. Like, we're going to give you a little bit of money and we want a big chunk of equity in exchange. And I'm like, no, but actually, I've done a lot already. And me being in your first cohort, they're trying to fundraise for their own, for this program. And me being in the first cohort is like what they desperately need to show investors, look at the types of founders that we have. So remembering your own value and your own worth, in that, and that they need you as much as you need them. And definitely doing that research and due diligence into the mentors, into the founders of the program, into um, you know, other companies that have graduated from the programs. Um, that's where I would start.
I love this. I love this. I think what you're saying is, Holly, that it's worth the time investment to do the due diligence, or otherwise, the amount of time you will lose by joining the program and not getting, you know, your time's worth is far worse.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
think we are in such a rush to get into some accelerator, we just don't do enough due diligence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got
And they're great, but they're not I know very successful founders who never even, never did an accelerator, never applied to an accelerator. Um, and so it just, it depends on you and your business and your goals. And um, you have to remember one thing I'll say is that in the world of startups, and especially in the tech world, and especially for female founders, what I found over the past several years is, I've had a very accomplished career in advertising, and coming into a space that I have no background in, there's a lot of ego and a lot of things that get pushed around that really sometimes make you question yourself and your worth, and can I do this, and am I capable, and am I like they love to tear you down and tell you all the reasons why they can't and won't invest in you. Um, but like, you are worthy, and there's a reason why you have this idea and why you're building it and why you want to build it. And um it's just important to remember that, like, your own value in it all. Like, we become so desperate for this outside capital that we forget what we're bringing to the table. And I definitely forgot that at times. And now I'm like in the process of kind of taking that back. So just something for everyone to please remember and keep in mind.
Oh, I love this. It's the best insight, Holly. Like, don't forget your worth. We are always looking for validation from everyone else, but we are worthy.
Yeah,
And and I think that's always should be in our line of sight, that we do due diligence. It's they are getting a lot out of us. We need to make sure it's a right fit for us as well. I
yeah.
wonder, on building on that, Holly, what is the biggest mistake you think founders make, especially women founders, while picking accelerators?
Um, that's a great question. I think that There, okay, there are a couple things. I know another female founder who really smart, really accomplished. She has kind of like she's been in a lot of accelerators, and a lot of those accelerators have been like her giving them money to and them promising we're gonna get and that not leading to anywhere. And so I think like that's one big thing I would say is if someone is asking for money from you as a founder to like help support you and accelerate your company, that is like a no red flag in my book. If they're asking for equity without investing financially in your company, absolutely not. Um, I think sorry, I lost my train of thought. Remind me the question.
The
What are
biggest mistake founders make.
biggest mistake? Yeah, I think just giving away their company to people who are making big promises and don't have don't have anything to back it up. Um, there's like an angel investor who I took, not an accelerator, but he was like the first big check that I got. And I was so excited and so kind of like blinded by like the tap song and dance that he did. And it wasn't like a big amount of equity that he has in my company, but I hate that he's on my cap table. And so I think just like don't just take the check because it's the first big check, or don't just give away equity because, of a promise. Like they need to be able to back up what they're saying and do your due diligence.
Totally, totally. I love that. It's so easy to just, take that check when it might not be right for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
I'd love to open it up for questions. Any questions for Holly as all of you are navigating your own, accelerators or considering accelerators?
Not question, more observation when I think about like mistakes founders make because, you know, I hear, a lot of founders are really focused on fundraising, and I think it's before they're ready. Especially now, I think in today's landscape, from everything I hear, like investors don't want to put money on ideas unless it's a proven founder with some connection to some successes previously. So I feel like I have not been focused on fundraising, more so focused on building and validating because I'm a believer. And then that traction will help you to demonstrate more kind of viability for what it is that you're building, which also gives you more leverage. So I feel, but I feel also at the same time, capital is a means to an end. You can achieve your vision and move forward and create a path with capital. So it's a balancing act, for sure, for
I
sure.
think that that raises the point. Sorry, I've just been listening because I was in the car until recently, but this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much. But in addition to thinking about what you want out of it and the fit to the accelerator that you spoke about earlier, which was great, the vetting and checking more than just one, previous experience is also to keep in mind the time that someone else went through it before versus the time you're going through it right now. I mean, trying to go out and fundraise was very easy a few years ago. And so there's a reason that that was the model. And that is not, I haven't, that is not the message I get from investors that they're in right now. They're all talking about how much harder it is right now, how you have to be so much more validated. And so
Mhm.
thinking about our approach is important, but also that's one of the things I'm trying to pressure test with anybody I talk to is, are you running a playbook from 3 years ago?
Yeah, because that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, that's a great point, Emily. It's the context that matters so much now. Even the advice, I think you made a good point, Holly, on the advice that you get. How dated is this advice? Does it even
Mhm.
work in this world,
Yeah,
today's world?
yeah.
Any final like thoughts or message you have as we close this for founders to remember? And you shared a lot, like the top two or three things you want to leave us with.
I think just kind of going back to my last point of really remembering your own worth. And with that comes like how much your time is worth, how much your energy is worth. Like your time is worth a lot. And so if the accelerator route is something that you want to go down, um, you have the right to be just as selective as they do. You don't have to apply to every single accelerator just to, there, I know people who apply to like literally every accelerator, accelerators that they might be like CPG accelerators and it's a tech company and they're just
Mhm.
applying just to it blindly. And that's a waste of your time that you could be spending on building your company. And so, if the accelerator route is something you want to go down, remember how valuable your time is, even through the application process. It's worth it to do the due diligence on the program itself. Is this the right program for, your vision for your business? Does it have the right people? And also thinking about like if I didn't go through this program, how else would I be spending my time on my business and kind of weighing like what does feel right in this climate. Um, but not losing sight of your own value in the process, I think, like throughout it all. Because I definitely did at times.
Wow. It's such an important takeaway, Holly. It's like don't lose your value, your time. You are so much more like you're worth so much more. So I think be
Yeah.
really selective on where you invest your time, be it accelerators or otherwise. Like what takes the most important priority should always be top of mind for you. So thank you, Holly. I think this was a great conversation. Thank you for your time. I learned a ton about accelerators. I hope all of you took away some great tips on accelerators. And so, really appreciate your all the great insights you shared, Holly. And if anyone here is looking for similar conversations and learnings, feel free to join us at Pioneer. We're here to support you at every stage. Thank you all again. We'll share the recording shortly after. See you at the next event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.